It's midnight, and I'm standing in my kitchen, the only light coming from the moon spilling through the blinds. My hands tremble as I grip the counter, trying to push away the memory, but it's there, always there. The feel of his hands on my skin, the sound of waves crashing, the moment I crossed a line I can never uncross. My name's Sarah Bennett, and 3 years ago, I did something that broke me, something I can't tell anyone, not my husband, not my daughter, not even myself. But I'm telling you now, because I need you to know, need you to understand how a single day can unravel everything you thought you were. I need you to listen, because I'm still trying to find my way back, and I don't know if I ever will. Let's go back to that summer, to a July morning in Plymouth, Massachusetts, when the air was thick with salt and the promise of escape. I was 39, married to David for 17 years, with 2 kids, Noah, 16, and Emma, 10. From the outside, we had it all, a shingle-style house by the harbor, a minivan in the driveway, a life that looked as steady as the tides at White Horse Beach. But inside, it was hollow, like a shell you pick up on the shore, pretty until you hold it close and hear nothing. David was a lawyer, always gone, chasing the next case in Boston, leaving me to hold the family together. That morning, he was already out the door, briefcase in hand, muttering about a deposition. "Sorry, Sarah, I can't make it to the beach today," he said, barely glancing at me. Something came up. I didn't argue. I just nodded, swallowed the ache in my throat, and watched him kiss Emma's forehead before he left. Emma was at a sleepover, so it'd be just me and Noah. He was sprawled on the couch, all lanky limbs and dark curls, sketching in his notebook. Noah had David's hazel eyes but a softer face, like he was still finding himself. When I told him it was just us for the beach, he closed his notebook and grabbed the cooler. "Let's go," he said, his voice low, and I caught a flicker in his eyes, restlessness, maybe, or something I didn't want to name. I pushed the thought away, focusing on packing the car, but it lingered, like sand in my shoes. We drove to White Horse Beach, past lobster shacks and ice cream stands along Route 3A, WPLM playing classic rock on the radio. Noah sat in the passenger seat, sketching the passing dunes, his pencil scratching softly. I glanced at him, marveling at how fast he'd grown. He was a junior at Plymouth North High, on the football team, quiet but well-liked. I wanted to ask about his drawings, his friends, but the words felt stuck, like they always did lately. Instead, I let my mind drift to David, to the days when we'd sneak off to Provincetown, stealing kisses on the boardwalk. Now, I couldn't remember the last time he'd touched me, really touched me, like I was more than a fixture in his life. At the beach, we found a spot near the jetty, where the dunes offered a sliver of shade. Noah set up the umbrella, his movements quick and precise, while I spread out the towels. The air smelled of salt and sunscreen, and for a moment, I felt lighter, like I could breathe. "Nice to be out here, right?" I said, trying to sound bright. Noah brushed his hair back and nodded. "Yeah, Mom. It's good." His voice was soft, almost drowned by the waves, but his eyes held mine too long, and I looked away, a knot forming in my chest. I lay down on the towel, the sun warming my skin, trying to let go of the weight I carried, David's absence, the loneliness that had settled in my bones. Noah sat nearby, sketching the horizon, his pencil moving in sure strokes. I watched him, noticing how his shoulders had broadened, how he carried himself with a quiet confidence. He was changing, and I was losing him, just like I'd lost David. The thought hit hard, and I reached for the sunscreen to distract myself. "Noah, can you help me with my back?" I asked, holding out the bottle. He hesitated, his pencil pausing, then set his notebook aside and took it. I lay face down, the towel rough against my cheek, and waited. His touch was light, cautious, like he was afraid to press too hard. It reminded me of when he was little, clutching my hand at the Plymouth 4th of July parade. "You can press harder," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "It's okay." His hands grew steadier, spreading the lotion across my shoulders, down my spine. I closed my eyes, letting the warmth sink in. It had been so long since anyone had touched me with care, too long. But then his hands lingered, moving lower, just above my swimsuit's waistband. My breath caught, sharp and sudden. I opened my mouth to stop him, but no words came. I told myself it was nothing, that he was just being thorough, that I was imagining things. But I wasn't. His fingers paused, hovering, and I felt a shiver that wasn't from the breeze. "It's okay," I heard myself say, my voice trembling. "You can keep going." The words were wrong, dangerous, and I knew it the moment they left my lips. Noah didn't speak, but his hands moved again, and I didn't stop him. As the waves crashed in the distance, something inside me cracked, and I let it happen, knowing it would change everything. Underscore 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 underscore. That day at White Horse Beach didn't end there. It stretched on, heavy and charged, like the air before a thunderstorm. The sun climbed higher, turning the sand scorching, and the beach filled with families, their laughter a stark contrast to the knot in my chest. Noah and I stayed longer than planned, caught in a strange, unspoken rhythm. I kept waiting for him to pull away, to toss a football with some kids or wander to the snack shack, but he didn't. He stayed close, his towel inches from mine, his eyes flickering to me when he thought I wasn't looking. I tried to act normal, like nothing had happened. I read a paperback, sipped iced tea, and asked Noah about his art class, anything to drown out my thoughts. But my mind kept replaying his hands, the way they'd hesitated, then pressed on. It wasn't just the touch, it was how it made me feel seen, wanted, for the first time in years. And that scared me more than anything. On the radio, WPLM played a Fleetwood Mac song, and I clung to the lyrics, trying to anchor myself, but the pull was too strong. We walked to the water around noon, the tide low, leaving warm pools in the rocks. Noah kicked off his sandals and waded in, his shadow long beside mine. I splashed him, trying to lighten the mood, and he grinned, splashing back. "You're in trouble now, Mom," he teased, his voice brighter. But when our eyes met, that flicker was there again, and my stomach twisted. I focused on the horizon, where a sailboat bobbed, trying to pretend everything was fine. Back at our spot, I lay down, trying to shake the unease. Noah sat cross-legged, sketching, but I felt his gaze, subtle but undeniable, like a current pulling me under. When I asked for a water, his fingers brushed mine, lingering too long. My heart stuttered, and I adjusted my sunglasses, hiding my eyes. I told myself I was overthinking, that he was just a kid helping his mom, that I was projecting my loneliness. But I knew better. As the afternoon wore on, the beach grew crowded, kids building sandcastles, teens blasting music, seagulls circling. I watched them, envying their normalcy. I wanted to be one of them, not this version of myself, caught in a moment I couldn't undo. When the sun dipped, casting golden light across the dunes, I suggested we pack up. Noah nodded, folding the towels silently. We trudged to the car, sand clinging to our feet, and I hoped we could leave it behind, the beach, the sunscreen, the words I shouldn't have said. In the car, the air was thick, heavy with what we hadn't said. Noah stared out the window, his knee bouncing, and I gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. WPLM played Tom Petty, but it couldn't fill the silence. When we got home, the house was empty, David still at work, Emma not back. I busied myself in the kitchen, chopping peppers, while Noah went upstairs. But I felt him, like a shadow I couldn't shake, and as I stood there, the knife trembling, I knew this was only the beginning. Underscore 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 underscore. The days after the beach were like walking through fog. I went through the motions, making pancakes, driving Emma to soccer, smiling at the cashier at Shaw's, but inside, I was unraveling. The house felt smaller, the walls closing in, and Noah's presence was everywhere. He didn't mention that day, but his silence was louder than words. He'd linger in the kitchen while I cooked, or sit closer on the couch during movie nights, his arm brushing mine. Each time, I told myself to pull away, to set boundaries, but I didn't. I couldn't. David was oblivious. He'd come home late, tie loosened, face lined with exhaustion. I tried to talk, to bridge the gap, but he'd give a distracted nod, eyes on his phone. Long day? I'd ask, desperate for connection. He'd grunt, yeah, brutal, and that was it. I was invisible to him, a ghost in my own life. One night, I caught him staring at a fridge photo, us at a clambake, years ago, Noah toddling between us. For a second, I thought I saw regret, but he turned away, and the moment passed. Upstairs, Noah was watching a Patriots preseason game, the TV's glow casting shadows, and I wondered if he felt as alone as I did. Our neighbor, Claire Thompson, stopped by with a peach cobbler, her excuse to snoop. Claire, a retired teacher in her 50s, had sharp eyes and a knack for noticing things. "You okay, Sarah?" she asked, glancing at Noah, sketching on the living room floor. "You seem off." I forced a smile, muttering about summer stress, but her gaze lingered. "Noah's been a big help," she said, her tone probing. "Always sticking close." My stomach churned, but I nodded, ushering her out. Later, I saw her curtains twitch as Noah helped me with the groceries, and I felt exposed, like she could see the cracks in me. Noah's behavior shifted, subtle but undeniable. He'd carry groceries, fix a squeaky door, things he'd never cared about. At first, I thought it was sweet, him growing up. But then I'd catch him watching me, eyes holding mine too long, and my pulse raced. One afternoon, at Cordage Park, we grabbed lobster rolls from a food truck. Noah sketched the old mill while we ate, and I watched him, noticing the intensity in his movements. "What are you drawing?" I asked. He hesitated, then showed me, a sketch of me, my profile soft against the harbor. "It's you, Mom," he said quietly, and the weight of his words hit like a wave. That night, after David and Emma were asleep, I found Noah in the kitchen, eating cereal. The house was quiet, the fridge humming. I should have gone to bed, but I sat across from him, clutching chamomile tea. "You okay, kiddo?" I asked, voice shaky. He looked up, eyes searching. "Yeah, Mom." "You?" His tone was casual, but something beneath it made my skin prickle. I nodded, unable to meet his gaze, and fled to my room. Lying in bed, David snoring, I stared at the ceiling, guilt sharp but not enough to drown the pull toward Noah. It was wrong, but it was there, and I didn't know how to stop it. Underscore 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 underscore. To understand how I got here, you need to know what I'd lost. David and I weren't always strangers. At UMass, he was charm and ambition, his laugh lighting up dive bars. We'd hike the Berkshires, dreaming of a house by the sea, kids, a life of love. After Noah's birth, David chased partner at his firm, and I supported him, thinking it was temporary. But years passed, and I was alone, raising Noah and Emma while he vanished into work. One night, after Noah's first birthday, we talked until dawn, planning a Nantucket trip. That was the last time I felt close to him, the last time I felt seen. I tried to fill the void, volunteering at Emma's school, joining a library book club, taking yoga at the Y. But nothing replaced being wanted. I'd look in the mirror and see a stranger, fading blonde hair, tired eyes, a body I barely recognized. I was 39, but felt older, worn by a life I didn't choose. Noah was my anchor. Quiet, always sketching or listening to music, He'd talk sometimes, about art or dreams of RSD. Those moments kept me going, until the beach changed everything. After that day, Noah's questions deepened. He'd ask about my Worcester childhood, my favorite bands, things he'd never cared about. It felt good, too good, and I leaned into it, ignoring the warnings. One afternoon, under our maple tree, sipping lemonade, he asked, "You ever miss how things were?" His voice was low, eyes on the grass. I froze, unsure if he meant the beach or something else. "Sometimes," I said. "You?" He shrugged, gaze meeting mine, and I felt the tide pulling stronger. "I don't know, Mom," he said, voice catching. "I just feel lost sometimes." The words hung there, and I wanted to reach out, but I didn't, afraid of what it meant. At the Plymouth Seafood Festival, we wandered through stalls of fried clams and chowder, music and laughter filling the air. Emma was with friends, David working, so it was just us. Noah bought me a snow cone, his fingers brushing mine, and I felt a jolt. Claire was there, watching from a picnic table, her eyes narrowing as Noah touched my arm to point out a boat race. "Careful," she said later, handing me a festival flyer. "People notice things." My heart raced, but I laughed it off, though her words stuck, like a splinter. Underscore 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 underscore. I made a mistake the next weekend. It was scorching, the air a wet blanket, and David was gone, Emma at soccer camp. I don't know why I suggested Whitehorse Beach again. Maybe I thought the ocean would clear my head, or maybe I was testing myself. I asked Noah if he wanted to go, and he said yes, eyes sharp, like he knew something I didn't. The drive was quiet, WPLM off, Noah staring out the window, fingers tapping his knee. I tried talking, Patriots preseason, the new lobster roll truck, but my words felt hollow. The beach was quieter, summer fading, and we set up near the jetty. I avoided sunscreen, spreading it myself, but felt Noah's gaze, heavy on my skin. We swam, ate sandwiches, played gin rummy, like any mother and son. But the undercurrent grew stronger. When I lay down to read, Noah sat close, knee brushing mine. I didn't move away. Later, as the sun sank, he spoke. "Mom, you're different lately." His voice was a whisper. I looked at him, heart pounding. "Different how?" I asked, dreading the answer. He paused, eyes distant. "Like you're here, but not." "I don't know." He looked away, guilty, and I wanted to ask more, but fear stopped me. That night, I couldn't sleep. David was in Boston, the house too quiet, amplifying my thoughts. I replayed Noah's words, his look, my body's response. I hated myself, but couldn't stop. Standing on the edge of something dangerous, I wondered if I'd already stepped over, and as I lay there, the Patriots game replaying faintly from Noah's room, I felt the ground slipping beneath me. Underscore 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 underscore. It happened the next weekend, at the beach again. I don't know why we kept returning, like moths to a flame. Emma was with us, but spent the day with a friend's family, leaving Noah and me alone. The day started innocently, towels, umbrellas, routine. But the air was charged, a storm brewing in my bones. Late afternoon, we rinsed off at the beach showers, open-air concrete stalls with rusty nozzles. Noah went first, water running down his back, silhouette sharp against the sunset. I waited, towel in hand, but something pulled me forward. I stepped beside him, cool water hitting my skin. I wasn't thinking. Maybe I didn't want to. Mom, he said, voice cutting through the water's rush. His eyes were wide, searching, a mix of surprise and something deeper. I should have left. Instead, I said, help me with my back. He hesitated, then stepped closer, hands on my shoulders. The touch was careful, but heavy. His fingers moved lower, tracing my spine, and my breath hitched. The air thickened, water drowning the world. I could have stopped it. I was the mother. But I leaned back, and his hands slid to my waist. I grabbed them, pulling them higher, to my chest, and he didn't pull away. What happened next was a blur, fierce, desperate, wrong in every way. It wasn't gentle. It was need, raw, born of years of being unseen. I wanted to stop, but couldn't. When it was over, we stood there, water pouring, washing away evidence but not truth. Noah hugged me, arms tight, and I let him. For the first time in years, I felt held, but the cost was a wound I couldn't close. We didn't speak as we dried off, packed, and drove home. The silence was deafening, WPLM static the only sound. I knew we'd crossed a line we couldn't uncross, and as we passed darkened seafood shacks, I gripped the wheel, trying to breathe, the weight of what we'd done crushing me. Underscore 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 underscore. Back home, I tried to bury it. I cooked spaghetti, Noah's favorite, asked Emma about camp, folded laundry like nothing happened. But my hands shook, my mind racing. Noah was quiet, eyes avoiding mine, but I felt him, a current through the house. David came home late, kissed my cheek, and didn't notice. I wanted to scream, to confess, but couldn't. That night, in the bathroom, I stared at my reflection, barely recognizing the woman looking back. I grabbed a notebook, scribbling, I don't know who I am anymore, but the words didn't help. The truth was a stone in my chest. Claire showed up days later with a Labor Day picnic flyer. You and Noah seem close, she said, watching him carry groceries. He's always helping. I laughed, but her words stuck. At the picnic, she cornered me by the lobster roll stand, asking about David's hours, Noah's dedication. I deflected, but saw her watching us, curtains twitching when Noah and I were in the yard. Everything okay at home? David asked that night, catching me staring out the window. I froze, lying, just tired, but his question lingered, sharpening my fear. Noah didn't make it easy. He'd help with dishes, sit close during movie nights, his touches subtle, a hand on my arm, fingers brushing mine. I wanted to push him away, tell him it was wrong, but his eyes held that same need, that emptiness I felt. We were feeding off each other, and I couldn't stop. One night, in the laundry room, he found me folding towels. Mom, can we talk? He asked, voice low. I nodded, following him to the living room. He sat close, air shifting. I can't stop thinking about you, he said, eyes locked on mine. About us. His words hit hard, his confusion raw. I wanted to lie, say it was a mistake, but I sat, silent, letting the moment stretch, dangerous and alive. Underscore 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 underscore. The weeks after were a descent. Noah and I didn't talk about the beach, but it was there, in every glance, every touch. He'd wait until David was gone, Emma distracted, then find me, kitchen, garage, hallway. His hands brushed mine, or he'd stand too close, and I felt that pull, intoxicating and terrible. I told myself to stop, to be his mother, but his look, like I was all that mattered, made me falter. At a neighborhood barbecue, David laughed with a colleague, face alive in a way I hadn't seen in years. I wanted to hate him, but felt empty, and when Noah grazed my back, I didn't pull away. Claire watched, asking, "Is Noah always so attentive?" I brushed it off, but her eyes followed me. I tried reaching David. I wore a dress he loved, cooked pot roast, but he barely looked up. "Looks nice," he mumbled, and I was nothing. Noah's attention filled the void. At a book club Claire dragged me to, she watched over her wine, asking about Noah's art with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. The fear of her saying something, of David noticing, paralyzed me, but it didn't stop me. Moments with Noah grew reckless, a touch in the car, a glance in the backyard, a late-night talk that went too far. Each time, I swore it was the last, but it wasn't. I was addicted to how he made me feel, alive, wanted, seen. The guilt was constant, but need drowned it. As summer faded, I wondered how long I could hold it together before it all fell apart. Underscore 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 underscore. It broke open one September night, the air crisp with fall. David was working late, Emma at a friend's, the house too quiet. I was washing dishes, trying to drown my thoughts, when Noah came behind me. His presence was electric. "Mom," he said, voice urgent. I turned, his eyes intense, unguarded. "We need to talk," he said, stepping closer. I nodded, drying my hands, and we sat at the dining table, where I'd watched David ignore me for years. "I don't know what's happening," Noah said, voice breaking. "I feel like I'm losing it. You're all I think about, Mom. Dad's never here, and you see me, you get me. I know it's wrong, but I can't stop." His words cut deep, showing a boy confused, desperate, carrying pain I'd helped create. "Noah," I started, trembling. "This is wrong. We can't," but he kissed me, hard, desperate, and I kissed back. It was the beach again, worse, because we knew. I pulled away, tears streaming. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I broke us." He shook his head, eyes wet. "No, Mom. I wanted it too. I still do." The truth was a knife, and I saw the depth of our damage. We sat, silence heavy, and I realized I'd lost everything. The mother I was, the life I'd built. Noah wasn't just a victim, he was part of this, and that made it worse. I'd thought I was in control, but we were both drowning in the wreckage. Underscore 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 underscore. 3 years later, I'm still here, in this house, with this family, but nothing's the same. Noah's at Massart in Boston, studying art, but when he comes home, I see it, the guilt, the want, the things we can't undo. David doesn't know, drifting through our lives. Emma's growing, her laughter a reminder of what I've betrayed. She asked me last week, "Why do you look sad, Mommy?" and I lied, hugging her, guilt choking me. Claire watches, and I heard she mentioned Noah's closeness to a neighbor. The secret's a bomb, and it'll explode someday. I lie awake, David's breathing steady, thinking of Noah's touch, how it made me feel alive. The guilt is a snake, but not enough to stop the memories. I've tried ending it, looked up therapists, scheduled a session I haven't attended, started a journal I can't finish. Noah's home, and I falter, his look a drug I can't quit. I hate myself, but can't stop wanting it, and that's what scares me. I'm telling you because I need someone to know, to say it out loud, to find a way out. If you felt this loneliness, Tell me how you climbed out. If you haven't, let this be a warning. Loneliness can pull you to places you never thought you'd go, places you can't return from. Don't let it take you like it took me. Thank you for listening. Share this if it spoke to you, if someone needs to hear it. I need to know I'm not alone. The worst betrayals aren't the ones we do to others, they're the ones we do to ourselves, and I'm still paying the price, wondering if I'll ever find my way back.